Today, as we look at Mark 15, it's really important for us to understand what's happening in Mark. There's one chapter after Mark 15, there's one chapter to go. We have gone through the whole book. We've had Jesus arrested, and in Mark 15, he's being crucified. So I'm going to read for us Mark 15, 33 to 39. At noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And at 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of those standing near heard this, they said, listen, he's calling Elijah. Someone ran, filled a sponge with wine vinegar, put it on a staff, and offered it to Jesus to drink. Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to take him down, he said. With a loud cry, Jesus breathed his last. The curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. And when the centurion who stood there in front of Jesus saw how he died, he said, surely this man was the Son of God. If we want to see what Jesus' mission was, if we want to see who Jesus was, it's in Mark 15. It is right here. It is precisely when Jesus dies that the curtain is torn in two from top to bottom. And it's precisely when Jesus dies that the centurion recognizes who Jesus is. Now, when it comes to the curtain, we kind of go, oh yeah, the curtain being torn, but the way it is torn and what it represents is significant. It's huge. The curtain itself, we know what it is based off what God says for it to be. So in Exodus 26, God explains what the temple is meant to look like, what the tabernacle is meant to look like, and what wood to use and how big it is and all the rest of it. And he talks about the curtain, and this is it. So this is 31 to 34 is important for us of Exodus 26. Make a curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and finely twisted linen, with cherubim woven into it by a skilled worker. Hang it with gold hooks on 4 posts of acacia wood overlaid with gold and standing on 4 silver bases. Hang the curtain from the clasps and place the Ark of the Covenant law behind the curtain. The curtain will separate the holy place from the most holy place. Put the atonement cover on the Ark of the Covenant law in the most holy place. The curtain represents a significant barrier between God and people. It is the barrier between a holy God and a sinful, unholy people. It was very, very rare for anyone to enter. So rare, it was once a year. It was only ever once a year. And for that person, one person was allowed to enter. That person could only be the high priest. And the high priest had this really particular set of things they needed to do to be able to go in. So not only was it so rare to enter that it was once a year, it was only one person, the high priest, and that high priest had to do a lot of stuff to make themselves holy enough to enter in that behind that curtain. Now that curtain, the reason that the high priest would enter into the most holy place was to offer the sacrifice of atonement. That's what he would do once a year. He would go in and he would make a sacrifice on behalf of all the people. So that day of atonement, the high priest would offer that sacrifice so that everybody's sins may be forgiven. The symbolism is significant. The symbolism is right there. That there is a curtain that demonstrates and symbolizes the difference and the gap between unholy people and a holy God. And there's only very rare occasions that gap can be breached, but only with a set person who has made sure that they are holy, and going through that curtain allows them to offer that sacrifice of atonement. So once a year, someone is allowed to offer a sacrifice that is for forgiveness for the entire Israelite nation. That's what the curtain was all about. It's also important for us to realize what's significant about the way the curtain is torn. It's a big curtain. It's like 4 meters or something like that. It's huge, and it's torn from top to bottom. It's not torn how a human would tear it. A human would tear from bottom to top. That would be the easiest way for us to do it. It is torn from top to bottom. This is God tearing this curtain in two. It is precisely when Jesus dies that God removes the symbol of the barrier between him and us. It is precisely when Jesus dies that God removes the gap between people coming forward to him to offer atonement. It is precisely when Jesus dies that the most holy place, the curtain being torn in two, no longer is the thing that you must cross through to offer that sacrifice of atonement. God has removed the barrier between himself and everyone else. And that's significant for us, because what it says is that God has made it possible for us to approach him. God has made it possible for anyone to approach him. The curtain is torn in two. It's not opened to be shut again. It is torn. It is torn in two. Jesus' death, right when Jesus dies, that curtain is ripped, showing that Jesus' death is the atonement we need. The once for all atonement. We don't need to do it time and time again because the curtain is torn. It doesn't need to be gone through again. That barrier, that separation, the delineation between holy and unholy is gone. Jesus' death is a sacrifice of atonement for all of us for all time. There's no need for any more. Mark wants us to understand very clearly what Jesus' mission was and what his death achieves. It is that sacrifice of atonement. Sins paid for and forgiven. It allows us to have a relationship with God. That curtain is a barrier between God and his people. It's gone. There is no barrier. So no barrier means free and open communication, proper relationship. It also gives us holiness. That barrier was there because there was an unholy people who couldn't come close to a holy God. But now Jesus has dealt with that. So a holy people can actually come before a holy God. Jesus' death achieves so much. In that atonement, in that sacrifice of atonement, Jesus gives us relationship and holiness all in one big hit. It is astounding, and it's something that God does. God is the one who tears the curtain into right when Jesus dies. The other thing we see when Jesus dies is who notices it. We see who Jesus is by who notices and what they say. The centurion who says, "Surely this man was the Son of God." Right back at the start, when we started this series in Mark, we talked about irony, how there is a significant amount of irony in Mark, and Mark uses it to kind of get his point across. We see the irony of those on the outside being brought in, and those on the inside being left out. We see that irony where those who claim to be on the inside are actually told they're on the outside, and those who are very aware that they're on the outside are told that they're being welcomed in. We're told time and time again through Mark that Jesus says, "Say nothing to no one," yet people go and tell. They do the exact opposite of what you think they would or what they were told to do. And here in Mark 15, we see probably the most significant bit of irony of all, potentially up to this point. It's the centurion who realizes who Jesus is. It's the Roman centurion. It's the oppressor. It's the outsider. It's the Gentile. It's not the Pharisees. It's not the Sanhedrin. It's not the priest. It's not a high priest. It's none of the religious leaders. It's a centurion. The bloke whose job is to stand there and guard this prisoner on a cross. He is the one who recognizes who Jesus is. Surely this is the Son of God. That's massive. And we shouldn't miss that what is going on here is a really big deal. When Jesus dies, right at that moment, you can see who he is. Right at that moment. You can't see who he is before. Jesus says it all the time. Say nothing to no one, because he knows people are going to get it wrong. But now we get to see what the Messiah is all about, what Messiahship is all about. Jesus' death on the cross demonstrates and shows and then opens the way for people to realize he is the Messiah. And if he's the Messiah, then he's the one we're waiting for. Jesus' death says so plainly to us. The centurion picks it up. He is the Son of God. Now, for us, we go, yep, Son of God, no worries. There is distance there. But that's not how that is understood. The Son of God is more than that. The Son of God is the image of, the representation of God, the exact representation. He is saying, surely this man was God. He understands who Jesus is, that Jesus is God. As soon as he dies, he gets it. As soon as Jesus dies, it is made clear. Right at Jesus' death, we see what Jesus achieves, his mission, atonement for all, forgiveness. And we see who he is, the Messiah, the Son of God, God himself. It is God himself who tears that curtain in two, and it is God himself who takes upon himself our punishment. It says a lot about who God is. It says a lot about who Jesus is. Jesus offers us atonement. Jesus offers us relationship. Jesus offers us holiness. And it's through his death. We can come before God because of what Jesus has done. Mark makes that very clear. It's not because of what we do. It's not because Jesus is a good teacher. It's not because Jesus was just a good bloke. Mark makes it very, very clear that when Jesus dies, there is all of a sudden this connection between God and everyone. All of our sins are forgiven because of what Jesus has done. We can come before God in relationship because of what Jesus has done. And as we worship who we worship a God who took our punishment for us to be holy. We worship God. We have a relationship with God through Jesus. Mark wants us to see how important that is, how massive that is. It's all been done because of what Jesus has done.